This is the highest-grossing animated movie of 2024, featuring a group of people living on a remote island who had no idea that others like them existed in the rest of the world. That's why a girl named Moana sets out on a journey to find the rest of humanity. The movie begins 3 years after the events of Moana. Part 1. Moana has grown up significantly and is now the princess of her island. Everyone respects and loves her deeply. However, her new responsibility is to travel to different islands and search for others like them. So far, she has explored and discovered many islands, but she hasn't found anyone like her people yet. We see Moana's little pet pig. In the previous film, she had a tiny pet chicken. This time, Moana arrives at an island and accidentally falls down a cliff. There, she finds a small clay cup with a painting on it. Since Moana is the first person to set foot on this island, it means that someone else must have made this cup. This proves that there are more people like them in the world. Now, all she has to do is find them. She takes the cup back to her island, where everyone has been eagerly waiting for her. They are overjoyed to see Moana return. She shows them the cup she discovered, which becomes a huge revelation for them. Moana announces, "There are many more people like us in this world." At this moment, we are introduced to a new character, Moana's little sister, Xinia. Overjoyed to see Moana, Xinia runs to her and hugs her tightly. She loves Moana dearly. Although Xinia knows nothing about the outside world, she shares the same curiosity as Moana. To help Xinia understand, Moana takes her to the same place where their grandmother once took her as a child. There, their ancestors had stored large ships, but now they have mysteriously disappeared. Now, Moana faces her biggest challenge yet. She must embark on a massive adventure, possibly alone. The scene shifts to Maui, the demigod. He is trapped somewhere and appears to be searching for something. Suddenly, an unfamiliar figure begins circling him, repeatedly warning him not to do something. But Maui is there for that exact purpose. The mysterious figure tries to deceive him with words. Meanwhile, our brave Moana is back. After settling everything on the island, she finally decides to set off in search of new islands. She wants to explore the entire world. At night, the villagers gather and discuss new adventures. Moana is their only guide on this journey. As they talk, a sudden bolt of lightning strikes, right at Moana. Within seconds, she is transported to the past, to the time of her ancestors. One of her ancestors, named Tautai, explains everything to her. He reveals that they too once set out on an adventure like hers. But suddenly, a curse befell the ocean, placed by a terrifying monster named Nalo. Tautai warns, "Nalo's goal is to kill everyone on your island and rule this world alone. Soon, he will take over this place too. But he's not just a monster, he's also a god. He once made an entire island, Matufitu, disappear. Because of this, all the smaller islands connected to Matufitu sank beneath the ocean. Every ship sailing the sea vanished as well. No one ever found their ships again. Many small tribes also disappeared. There is only one solution to find them. Someone must go to Matufitu Island. But that's impossible because Nalo has already erased it from existence. Your ancestors, along with many others, set out to find that island. But once they left, no one ever returned." Moana finally understands everything. The ancestor explains it all and then sends her back to the present. As she opens her eyes, she begins thinking about everything she learned. Where could Matufitu Island be? When did her ancestors go searching for it? Who else was with them? She gathers all the available information from a librarian and prepares for what comes next. Moana doesn't want to take anyone with her on this dangerous adventure. In the end, she decides to go alone. She is terrified because everyone trusts her deeply. If she fails to find the lost people, it would be a huge mistake, one that might cost her the trust of her people forever. This is her last chance. Besides, no one else in the village is capable of leading this mission like she is. If Moana fails to find Matufitu Island, her village could disappear next, as Nalo's curse continues to destroy people's lives. That night, Moana's grandmother's spirit appears before her. They loved each other dearly, and her grandmother had always guided her in times of crisis. She reassures Moana, saying, "This is your destiny. You have done this before. You must complete what your ancestors left unfinished. You can do it. Everyone believes in you." Hearing her grandmother's words fills Moana with confidence. The next morning, she prepares for her journey. However, no one wants her to go alone. It seems like the entire village wants to accompany her. They all warn her that traveling alone would be far too dangerous. At first, she selects a young woman who is skilled at building boats. Then, she chooses an elderly man who can take care of food and water supplies. Lastly, she picks someone with vast knowledge about many things. Once her team is assembled, they are ready to set out. But Moana's little sister, Zinnia, insists on joining them. Moana tries to explain that such a journey would be too dangerous for a child and promises to return soon. However, Zinnia is deeply worried about her sister. Moana reassures her, saying, "The ocean has always protected me since I was a child. You don't have to worry. It won't let anything happen to me." Before Moana leaves, Zinnia gives her a starfish as a gift. With that, a new adventure begins. Meanwhile, we see Maui. Someone has tied him up. Below him, a swarm of fish is swimming around, but instead of helping him, they keep disturbing him. On the other hand, Moana and her 3 companions have traveled far. However, they struggle to perform their assigned tasks. Frustrated, Moana takes it upon herself to teach them. She shows them how to properly sail, keep their balance on the boat without moving too much, and handle the sails. As they continue their journey, Moana spots another ship. It is the same ship we saw in Moana. Part 1. The ship belongs to coconut-clad creatures called the Kakamora. Their ship begins to interfere with Moana's journey. To avoid conflict, she steers her boat to the side. Just then, a massive sea monster emerges in front of her. This beast swallows everything that passes by. In an attempt to escape, Moana and her friends try to tether their boat to the Kakamora's ship. However, no matter how hard they try, they struggle to avoid being sucked into the monster's mouth. After a difficult battle, they finally manage to secure their boat to the Kakamora's ship. However, when the Kakamora realize Moana and her team are on board, they immediately poison them, knocking them unconscious. After all, their rivalry had existed for a long time. But they were incredibly lucky because the leader of the Kakamora recognized something important. He realized what Moana's mission was. Moana was searching for the Matufitu monster. The Kakamora leader explained that several of their ships had mysteriously vanished at sea. They knew the route to Matufitu, but their problem was that they couldn't travel that path alone. Even worse, they had to get past the monster that guarded the way. They had tried countless times to cross the monster and reach Matufitu, but they had never succeeded. Moana said, "All right, I can take you with me. You just have to show me the way to Matufitu, and I'll take care of stopping the monster." The Kakamora leader then freed everyone from the effects of the poison. Moana had a plan. She would shoot a poison-tipped arrow at the monster, paralyzing it so it couldn't attack. With her friends by her side, she entered the monster's domain, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But this monster was incredibly smart. It started pulling Moana's boat, along with the arrows, into its grasp. Just then, someone from the Kakamora's ship jumped out to help. He also had a poisoned arrow. However, before he could take a shot, he noticed that the Kakamora's massive ship was sinking into the ocean. To save the ship, he cut the rope anchoring it. Meanwhile, Moana and her friends were all trapped inside the monster. Everyone had fallen into the same area, except for Moana, who ended up in a different part. When they opened their eyes, they found Maui standing before them. Maui assumed that if humans had entered this place, they were as good as dead. He warned them, "Get out of here now, or you'll all be in serious danger." By then, Maui had almost freed himself and had retrieved his weapon. But as he looked at these people, he noticed Moana's tiny pet chicken among them. That's when Maui realized that Moana must be with them. It had been years since he last saw her, but now he was worried. If everyone else was here, where was Moana? On the other hand, we see Moana. She was unconscious, trapped in a vision. In it, she felt as if her little sister was right beside her. But it was only a dream. As she regained consciousness, she saw a swarm of bats flying toward her, ready to attack. Just then, a girl appeared. Her name was Matangi. Matangi instantly realized what Moana's mission was and offered to help. Moana asked, "But why do you want to help me?" Matangi explained that she had been trapped in this place for many years because of Nalo's curse. She wanted to break the curse so that the people of all the islands could reunite and live normal lives again. She didn't want humanity to slowly disappear from the world. She added, "Of course, I'll take you to the right path to Matufitu." Hearing this, Moana felt overjoyed. Matangi also revealed that she had captured Maui. In truth, Maui had set out alone to find Matafitu Island because he believed that if Moana went on this journey, she would surely die, simply because she was human. Matangi then showed Moana a different route to Matafitu. She explained, "Every mission has two paths. If the first one is impossible, you must find the second." Moana then used her staff to strike the ground with immense force, causing the surrounding mist to vanish. That's when she noticed a massive door right beneath her feet. Behind that door, she finally found Maui. Now, at last, everyone was together again. Maui gave everyone a warning right away. He said, "You shouldn't come with us. Your death is guaranteed. That place is far from easy. Nalo's curse is terrifying. The moment a human sets foot there, massive storms will begin. You won't survive even a second. But if you have a death wish, then go ahead and come along." But no one was scared by his words. Instead, they replied, "No matter what, we are going to Matafitu Island. Please help us. Together, we'll come up with a plan to make it work." Maui agreed, but deep down, he knew these people were walking toward their doom. However, he couldn't bear the thought of seeing Moana dead. That's why he didn't want to take her along in the first place. Under the cover of darkness, they resumed their journey. Since Moana was a skilled navigator, she knew the exact path they needed to take. But soon, they ran into trouble. Suddenly, the ocean could no longer help Moana. That was because they had entered Nalo's territory. Here, everything followed Nalo's command. Out of nowhere, a massive, terrifying serpent, sent by Nalo, attacked them. The serpent overturned their entire ship, but they managed to recover and hold their ground. It almost devoured Moana's wise friend, but Maui jumped inside the serpent's belly and pulled him out just in time. The boy was absolutely terrified. Just then, daylight broke through. They realized they had reached an island. Everyone was shaken by fear. What they had faced the night before was just a minor attack from Nalo. Who knew how much worse things would get if they confronted Nalo directly? Moana started losing hope, but Maui encouraged her, saying, "If you've made it this far, then please don't turn back now. I believe you can finish whatever you start. You've accomplished so many great things already. Fighting Nalo is nothing for you. The two of us will come up with a plan, and together, we'll handle everything." Hearing this, Moana regained her strength. They came up with a plan. Maui would distract Nalo, while someone else would block the massive lightning strikes Nalo sent. Then, Maui would throw his magical weapon into the ocean and retrieve Matafitu Island. Moana had only one job: to run and set foot on Matafitu Island. The moment a human stepped onto the island, everything would restore itself, and Nalo's curse would be broken. The plan seemed simple to both of them. They even decided not to take the rest of the people with them, knowing that anyone who entered Nalo's domain would surely die. But their biggest problem right now was that they had no ship. Moana walked to the shore and saw that her boat was still there, anchored on the beach. That meant her friends hadn't abandoned her. In fact, they had worked together to transform her small boat into a massive, sturdy vessel. Without wasting any time, they all set sail toward Nalo. Ahead of them, they saw Nalo stirring up enormous storms. Maui used his powers to transform into different creatures, cutting through the raging winds. But the lightning strikes wouldn't stop. In fact, they only grew stronger. Moana carefully observed and realized that Nalo's attention was not focused on Maui. If they could divert Nalo's focus even further, Maui would be able to complete his mission with ease. So, they executed a new plan. Moana would draw Nalo's attention to herself, giving Maui the chance to reach the island and lift it from the depths. But Maui was deeply worried. If Nalo truly focused on Moana, he could burn her to ashes in just a second. But they had no second option. Moana was completely ready to draw Nalo's attention toward herself. Meanwhile, Maui threw his weapon into the ocean and anchored it to Matafitu Island, trying to pull it back to the surface. But Nalo quickly realized what was happening. In response, he struck Maui with a massive lightning bolt. The rope slipped from Maui's hands. Even though he tried desperately to hold onto it, the force was too great. Moana saw that things were becoming even more difficult. Bringing the island up from the ocean would take a long time. Meanwhile, their ship and boats had all been destroyed. Then, Moana suddenly remembered what Matangi had said. There is always a second way. Without hesitation, she dove into the water. Moana had realized that if the island couldn't rise to the surface, then why not have the people go down instead? She was almost at the island when a lightning bolt from Nalo struck her. The shock knocked her unconscious underwater. Everyone else remained on the surface. Maui soon realized that Moana was missing. He dove into the water and lifted her into his arms. But by then, Moana had stopped breathing. Suddenly, the spirits of Moana's ancestors began appearing all around them. They gathered together and used their combined power. Even Moana's grandmother was there. Through their magic, Moana was brought back to life. Not only that, but they also restored Maui's lost powers. To everyone's surprise, Moana had now become a demigod. She was given a magical staff, one that was golden in color with intricate markings on it. When she looked at her hands, she noticed new tattoos had appeared on her skin. From now on, she too possessed incredible magical abilities. Finally, Maui made one last attempt to pull the island to the surface. This time, it started to rise from the ocean. And this was the island, the one that could reunite all the others. Moana climbed onto the island and blew a conch shell. Now, she just had to wait and see if the people of the world would come. And just as she had hoped, they did. She saw all her friends arriving on the island. On the mountains surrounding them, glowing images began appearing, depicting the battle against Nalo. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise in the distance. It was the sound of conch shells. Moana looked closely and saw several ships approaching from far away. She couldn't believe it. There were still many more people left in the world, and now they had found each other. Maui quickly rushed back to their island to inform everyone of the news. He announced, "Moana is returning soon." He then gifted Moana's younger sister the special present Moana had left for her. From afar, the people on the island could see Moana in the distance. But she wasn't coming back alone. She was leading a fleet of thousands of ships toward them. Finally, Moana was reunited with her family, who embraced her with joy. A final meeting was held, where Moana was officially declared a demigod. She had become the last true navigator of her people. Even the Kakamora had now joined them. But elsewhere, Nalo was still alive. He was furious. He angrily confronted Matangi, demanding to know why she had helped Moana. In the shadows, a massive crab-like creature also appeared. They vowed that they would take revenge on Moana. So, it was clear. Moana's story wasn't over yet. The third part was coming soon. Until then, we just had to wait.